How did your martial arts journey really start into this?
My dad wanted us all to learn how to do martial arts.
Okay.
He felt it was an important part of our development as kids, as humans. And also, you know, I'm one of 6 kids. I had 4 brothers, so it was definitely a very masculine household. We were always kind of fighting and roughhousing and doing different types of athletic, contests. So a conversation we always had was who was the best fighter. We were watching martial arts movies all the time, so that's kind of the environment that I grew up in. I did not start in judo. I started out in Kempo karate and Shaolin Kung Fu.
But I thought your dad trained in judo,
He
right?
did, yes,
Right, okay.
absolutely. So my dad was a black belt in judo. He did it all through his high school years, all the way through college, all the way through medical school. And there wasn't really a judo school close to us.
Sure.
So, I think my dad and my mom were like, well, let's just find the nearest martial arts school. That's what it was. So we did Shaolin Kempo karate.
If I'm correct, it was Royce Gracie from UFC. You
Yes.
attended a seminar?
Yes.
Expound on what the feeling was like attending and being in it.
For me, anytime I saw a martial arts movie, those were the real superheroes to me.
Right.
That's who I wanted to be. That's who I looked up to. So when I met Royce Gracie for the first time, I think I was probably in awe a little bit. I was surprised that he was actually a little bit bigger than I had thought. He was still lanky, but he's like 6'1", 6'2", a decent sized guy. He had a certain presence about him that I liked. He was definitely very confident. And there was a look in his eyes that told you not to mess with him no matter what, that there was kind of a darkness there that you knew not to challenge.
Right.
And my brother and I were just so intrigued, and we did that seminar, and we literally trained jiu-jitsu every single day since that moment. I couldn't stop thinking about jiu-jitsu. Whether I was about to go to sleep, when I woke up, when I was in the shower, when I was in school, that's all I wanted to do, that's all I wanted to think about. So there was this obsession that was connected with that, because I think all these feelings that I had as a kid when I was doing martial arts, which to me was the closest thing to a religious experience, bubbled to the surface again. And I was like, man, I'm doing this again. I have to do this again.
You were at this position where you were hiking because you wanted to train at the Mecca at that point, Brazil.
Yes.
A lot of people know about your story slipping. If you didn't slip and fall into that rock, would you have gone full time into martial arts? Because sometimes it requires that push.
I've never thought about that. That's interesting. Yeah, I remember falling off the cliff, and it was probably a 2-second drop, but in my mind, it seemed like it was about 30 seconds.
Sure.
And I saw my whole life flash before my eyes. And I remember just being really sad and disappointed in myself because I said, first of all, this is how I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die on a mountain in Brazil. And I never truly committed myself to be a martial artist. I was afraid. I was trying to be something that other people wanted me to be, which was, I don't know, a lawyer or some kind of professional guy who worked in an office.
You were translating documents,
I was
right?
translating documents, and I was not that person. It didn't really bring me joy anyway, right?
Sure.
And I remember just feeling very sad. And I dropped on that rock, on that ledge. If I didn't fall on that rock and on that ledge, I would have fallen hundreds of feet, and it would not have been good. It just woke me up. It took the breath right out of me. I remember kind of coming to, and I kind of started laughing. And
It was so heavy.
it was heavy, and I also I realized that I was alive.
Sure.
I was in my body still, and I had this second chance on life, in my mind anyway. And I remember carrying that sadness with me a little bit as I was walking down the mountain. I mean, all of us, I was with some buddies, and we were all just very quiet. And I knew at that moment that I had to commit myself to martial arts, that I was living this life that was not authentic to myself, and that this was my chance to actually do what I wanted to do and stop living the dream of other people around me.
I feel like it's also generational. You know, it's like we were raised in the era, it's like 8 to 5, grind it out, go
Yeah,
to school,
for sure.
do that. For you, you had to face death to actually flip and go, you know what, I'm done. I'm done doing this. Do you
Yeah.
find it that it's different with this younger set of students and people that you interact with? Because for me, it took a while for me to want to get into radio. I didn't get into radio till I'm 44 now. I didn't get into radio until like my 30s because I did the 8 to 5 grind.
Yeah. I think that it definitely is generational. I think I was definitely carrying a certain pressure from my parents to be a certain thing, to do something that carried a certain prestige with it. Back in that time also, martial arts wasn't a thing that was going to bring you money. And that's what my parents were most concerned with. How are you going to live if you become a martial arts instructor? How are you going to live if you become a professional martial artist? What does that even mean? The possibilities were very few back in the day. So now, you know, I think amongst kids in this culture, I think we're seeing these people like, you know, who are going into start their own businesses, and something that is very unusual. And we're seeing that when people become more authentic and they work their asses off and they're doing what they love, they become successful.
Right.
Even if it's something that was completely unheard of before. The shameful thing about that experience is I don't know if I would have had the courage to become a martial artist if I didn't fall on that rock. So it's something I actually never really thought about. And it's also interesting that I needed to face death in order to really live a true and authentic life.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't know that I was raised with a father and a mother. They think like you're privileged automatically, but your dad and mom did not hand you out anything.
Yes.
Sure, there was a home.
Right.
Sure, there was education, but you got to get yours, Kenny.
Exactly. I think.
Which pisses me off, by the way. People automatically assume that you came from a privileged background.
Right, and you know, my parents really believed in not giving you fish, but teaching you how to fish, and I'm very grateful for that because you know, some of the kids that I grew up with were just handed certain things, and money doesn't guarantee you anything, and these opportunities that are just handed to you, I think can breed a certain weakness in individuals. I think when you realize that delayed gratification and hard work and persistence is what are the key drivers to success, that, you know, it's going to translate into other aspects of your life. And you're going to realize that there are no easy paths, that it's actually the hard paths, and it's actually adversity that breeds strength, which also coincided with my experience with Jiu-Jitsu. I realized that in order to truly be strong within, that I needed martial arts in my life.
You're in this pseudo left turn, so you decided you're gonna get into martial arts. So we get into this cloud 9 state, hey, I'm no longer an 8 to 5er. But there must have been some challenges because you're not making a lot of money when you start off. Fighting, you literally, it's like enrolling in a tournament and you're paying them to fight.
When I had that accident in Brazil, I was married at the time. I went back home. I told my wife at the time that I wanted to truly be a professional martial artist, and I wanted to do it in some capacity. I didn't think it was going to be as a fighter. I thought it would be as a teacher or whatever it was, or competitor.
Sure.
She did not like that idea. My parents did not like that idea. My friends didn't like that idea. Everyone thought I was crazy. I ended up getting divorced. I ended up, you know, going from staying with friends to living at home to, you know, I could barely get by.
You gypsied a little bit.
I gypsied a lot of bit. And I also kept investing in myself, which was even crazier. People were like, what are you doing? You're gonna go to Brazil again? Where's your money? You don't have that money. I would literally teach private lessons, or I would win some kind of tournament, jiu-jitsu tournament, take that money and go and travel and go train with this person or train with that person or go and do a jiu-jitsu tournament, and I would spend money on gas, spend money on a hotel. I'd split it, and a bunch of friends would sleep in one hotel room, and I would win that medal, and that would cost me like $400 and head back, and that was $400 that I really didn't have. And I knew that I had to continue doing that. I wish I could do it more. Sure. I wish I did it more, but these were all things that people were just shaking their head like, what is going on with Kenny? What is he doing? How is he thinking that he's gonna survive this way?
The oblique kick.
Right.
It's almost like the touchy subject.
It is, and it's a very dangerous technique for a couple different reasons. It's funny because when you look at the Gracies and their approach to getting to the clinch, they kind of started with an oblique kick in a lot of ways, or a side kick to that knee. A couple things. If I'm here, it's a great tool for judging distance. Everyone always talks about the jab being, this is the longest weapon, this is your ruler. The reality is, your lead leg is much longer than your lead hand. So I can utilize this similar to how I would utilize a jab. Not to mention, it also takes away your ability to kick, right? So the Gracies used to attack the knee this way. So they're going to utilize it not only to take away your kick, here it's gonna be difficult, right? Especially with your lead leg. I'm judging distance of what I need to do. I can either pull back, throw it again, or go back depending on what you're doing. And if you don't throw anything, it can be my way of entering and getting close to maybe a body lock takedown, a clinch, whatever it may be. So it jams up the knee. It can affect the muscles of the quad, right? Of like actually being a strike that's gonna kind of create some contusions there. But it also can lock out the knee and damage the ligaments of the knee as well, depending on where their stance is.
Now the dynamic changes when it's the rear oblique.
Correct. I can do it the same. I can do it the same. So I can either go lead leg, or if I'm here, I can stomp
on down
that way exactly as well.
I just need to be checked on this one. I love Bruce Lee,
Yes.
but I felt like this wasn't really doing much because I feel like you could go ahead and blast me in the face if you do one of these type of oblique kicks.
Correct. There is the snap version of, let's say, a teep, right? And snap it.
Sure.
I can push through it, right? Or I can stomp and kind of put my weight behind it. The same way I can do it with the knee. So I can either strike and snap it, or I can stomp. If you keep your knee there and it gets locked out, you can really hyperextend that knee, and that's gonna be some problems.
Standing leg bar almost.
Exactly, and also I don't have to rely on the impact of the power of my kick to snap or the body weight. So this is a more efficient way. If my body is behind this and I stomp down, while I might be able to get countered here, if I'm doing it properly, my body weight is doing the work for me as opposed to just the strike or speed of my kick.
Which momentum-wise, with your leg lifted and I come in, it might be the worst thing you could actually do.
Exactly. So you really, I mean, striking more than anything else is the mastery of distance and managing that distance and controlling that distance repeatedly. Because I can be here and I can hit you all day, but guess what? You can hit me too.
Sure.
So it's really the art of how do I manage that distance, hit and not be hit. Finding the angles where I can hit and not be hit, right? So how do I position my body, right, in such a way that after I hit, I can get away, as opposed to hit and keep hitting, right? So I think that's probably the hardest thing for most strikers to understand in mixed martial arts.